topic that I usually don't talk about or try not to talk about too much, and that's politics. And I'm not going to be talking about Democrat versus Republican or conservative versus liberal. I really wanted to talk about it in the context of farming and specifically in terms of regulation, because I think that what I've been seeing here in a number of different states, and California seems to be leading the way here, um, is a focus on regulation. In other words, preventing people or penalizing people for doing something you don't like. And specifically, what we're seeing in terms of agriculture is, in California especially, is the reduction or the attempted reduction of water usage by farmers. Now, for those of you guys who don't know what's happening or the background of it, what we're seeing is regulators and environmental agencies in government are trying to reduce or eliminate how much farmers really to try to reduce how much farmers are able to use in terms of their watering their crops. Now, traditionally in California, there's two forms of water that really is used in agriculture. The first is, of course, what they call surface water or fresh water, which comes from, when it rains and snows in the mountains, and when it rains, those get collected into the waterways, and then when the snow melts, of course, all that water drains into reservoirs, which then get pumped out and used in agriculture and, of course, for humans. But when there's not enough rain or not enough snowpack to really provide the amount of water needed for agriculture and human consumption, then typically, and that's what's been happening over the last, I think, 4 or 5 years now, maybe 6 or 7 years. Um, but what happens is we start to look at how can we what do we have to do? So farmers then start to pump water out of underground water sources, or called aquifers. And so the problem that's been happening is, because of the drought, because there hasn't been a lot of surface water or rainwater or snowpack that provides the water that farmers need to water their crops during the course of the year, especially when it gets really hot in the summertime, then they have to pump water out of the ground, and that, of course, means that they start utilizing water from underground. Well, unfortunately, what's been happening is the aquifers are getting depleted because, again, there's not enough surface water. So the farmers are pumping more water out of the ground, out of the aquifers, and the aquifers are actually, in some cases, collapsing or dropping, and it's actually causing environmental problems. Now, why am I telling you all this? Well, I'm telling you all this because there's a big push right now to regulate what farmers can use. And it's going to affect you if you're in one of these areas, because if you don't have access, if they're actually going to physically limit you from how much you can pump, or they're going to start taxing you or fining you for using more water than your specified allotment, then it's going to become very difficult for you to stay profitable as a farmer. And that's really, I guess, where the whole idea of politics in this particular discussion relegates or relates to profitability in farming, because in some cases, and this is, drought's not the only situation, but in some cases, regulations can actually create problems in profitability. And so it becomes very, very important for you to understand how you can utilize resources efficiently, so that you can stay profitable, because it's not always easy to double or triple your price that you're selling your product for, because sometimes that's out of your control. But at the same time, if you have labor costs going up, there's been a big talks over the last few years of increasing the minimum wage for laborers, including farm workers. You have the cost of fertilizer is going to be going up because transportation and fuel costs are going way up here, and they're going to be going up in the next 2 to 3 years. They're predicting 30 to 40% increases in fertilizer costs because of the transportation cost of moving it from one place to another. It's got a lot of fuel and a lot of heavy fertilizer, obviously, right? And of course, this particular round of regulation that's going on is actually going to make it even harder to be profitable. So much so that a lot of farmers are saying they're not going to grow crops. They're not even going to plant a crop, because they look at the end result and say, well, why should I go out and grow my crop? Why should I go out and plant my field and spend 6 months, cultivating it, growing it, tending the crop, and then harvesting it, if at the end of the year I wind up losing 20, 30, $40,000, or maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars in some cases? So why would I even put the effort into the season if I know I'm not going to get at the end of the year, my money back and make a profit? Because let's face it, why work if you're not going to make any money? And I was actually reading this article. I'll share it here with you guys so you can see it here. Um, what they're actually going to be doing. So if you guys aren't aware of this, I wanted you to be aware of this because I think it's important. This particular article I found was on WUSF, but in San Francisco, I think it's a San Francisco NPR station, and it's very interesting to read this article because this article is actually written by a pro-legislative author, somebody who's for more regulation and more restrictions on agriculture. So you can kind of see the bent as you read this article that they're really looking at farmers as the bad guy. Of course, we all know that farmers work hard and they want to produce a good crop and they want to be stewards of the land. But in some cases, it's very difficult. What are you going to do? Are you going to not grow a crop this year, not make any money this year? Or are you going to use more water because that's what you have to do to get the crop out? Especially like I said, you get these 115 degree, 120-degree days in somewhere in the Central Valley of California, and it's really difficult. Those trees are evaporating, that water evaporates out of the soil. It's difficult to grow a crop. And of course, just as a little shameless plug here, our technology, the Kiminoxi Plant Booster, is helping farmers reduce their water usage so that they can still get a good crop out without using as much water. But as I was reading through this article, I found it very interesting because they're really, again, kind of talking to regulators and talking about and what they're looking to do. And this article is all about how they're going to be using the old satellites, that they used to use to monitor how many missiles the Russians had or how many nuclear weapons a particular enemy of the United States might have. They're reconstituting these satellites, and now they're going to be using them to track how much water a farmer is using. Now, it's very, very interesting. As I scroll through this article again, you can read this article again. It's just npr.org, and the title is "Satellites Reveal the Secrets of Water Guzzling Farms in California." And here in the title, "Water Guzzling Farms." And of course, if you guys know agriculture, yes, agriculture does use quite a bit more fresh water than human consumption. So it's easy to look at them and go, "Oh, they're the ones who are using all this water." But on the other hand, they're producing the food you guys eat. So you want to go thirsty or you want to go hungry. Either way, you lose. So, but in the interest of this, I was kind of looking through this, and this is an example. This picture here you see is a map. On the left-hand side here, you see they actually have a specific area that of one of the two counties here in the San Joaquin Valley in California. And on the left, they show it's color coded by the type of crops they're using. And of course, the dark green is mostly almonds, which is a big factor. It's a big crop in California. And on the right, you have a satellite image of how much water is evaporating. Now, the satellites are actually being used to measure how much water is evaporating from the trees and the soil. And from that, they're extrapolating or they're calculating how much water that farmer is using. And they're actually, of course, if in areas where there's water restrictions, when they say, oh, you can only use, let's say 2 acre feet of water in a season, or whatever that number happens to be, they're going to be able to utilize these satellites and say, well, look, based upon this respiration and what your crops are growing, we're going to be able to determine, we're determining that you're actually using 5 acre feet instead of 2. So we're going to tax you on that extra 3 acre feet. And this is coming down the pike. This is already, by the way, this article was not a brand new article. It's already sort of coming down the pike. And they're going to start utilizing methods like this. They're going to use water meters on your farm and the wells. They're going to use satellite imagery. So even if you're telling them like, you're not getting on my property and putting a water meter on my farm, they can still actually utilize satellite technology to go in and find out how much you're using. So I just want to let you know, again, I'm not necessarily going to make the government out to be the bad guy or the farmer out to be the bad guy, but they're already doing things that are going to be affecting your farm. They're already putting regulations in place and utilizing technology to be able to determine what you can grow and how much you can use and what inputs you can use and how much water you can use and everything else. And it's not a very, it's kind of a scary sight if you think about it. I mean, I've heard some scary stories about 5G cell phones, and I'm not going to get into that in this particular discussion, but of how they're able to track people and do various things. But this is a real world thing. This is a government agency. This is not just me or some crazy conspiracy theorist saying, "Oh, the government's coming after you." This is a government agency, a water agency that's basically saying, yeah, we're using these satellite imagery to determine how much water is a farmer is using, so that we can, either help them limit their water usage, or in some cases they might actually start taxing you. And if you're wondering how you're going to make a good profit now, imagine how it's going to be a few years from now when they perfect this satellite technology, and they're really going to be able to tell, hey, this farmer over here is using twice as much as their water. They're pumping out of the ground twice as much as their water allotment, and we can then go in and tax them. Now, for over 100 years, by the way, farmers have known that, or have gotten used to the fact that, um, that once they buy the land, they have water rights to that land, meaning they can build their own wells, they can pump the water from under their land, and the water rights are essentially theirs. And what the government's basically telling you here in articles like this, by utilizing this technology, is you don't have these water rights. You don't have free access to water anymore. We're going to dictate what you can use and what you can't use. And I want to just let you know, I mean, if yes, you can get mad at the government. You can say this, I'm really mad at the regulators. I'm really, pissed off at what's happening here. But at the other end of this cycle, you have to really start thinking logically and think, what can I do about this? Am I going to just give up farming? Am I going to just, give up on my ability to grow crops? Or are you going to have to start looking for very creative ways that you can utilize technology so that you're able to continue to put out a good crop, and still deal with regulations and this kind of thing? Because I guarantee you, the environmental movement and the intensity of regulation as a means to sort of coerce people to do what they want them to do, especially in terms of farming, is not going away. Okay, it's not something that's just going to disappear, or even if they were able to elect a different group of officials in government, it's not likely that this type of solution is going to go away. So you have to ask yourself as a farmer, what can I do to be causative over the situation, and not either have to give up my farm or otherwise, risk my own profitability? And I think is the answer, I think, to really that question is, you have to find innovative ways to farm. You have to find innovative ways to improve the efficiency of your water usage, so that you're not using as much, frankly. I mean, then, all the regulators, the big bad wolf regulators, can come after you all they want. But if you're not using the water and you're still getting a good crop out, then you win, and then they're not going to bother you, at least not till they get even stricter. And the Cheminoxy Plant Booster is one of those devices that can really, really help you with that. We've mentioned on previous episodes of the show and other shows that the Cheminoxy Plant Booster is already shown on a number of different farms to dramatically reduce the amount of water needed to water a crop. And this includes especially on tree fruit, like nuts, almonds, tree fruit, grapevines, other crops that are typically water intensive, walnuts. And we've already shown that we're able to reduce the amount of water needed to water your crops. So if you're looking at, here's a situation I'm faced with, I've got regulators that are breathing down my back, and they're hell bent on making me use less water, less pumping, less water, to grow my crop. So I can either succumb to that, I can either lay down and die and just give up on it, or I can be proactive and fight, and I can fight the regulation. But the other way to fight back is to say, hey, how can I make my operation more efficient? If you're looking at fertilizer usage and the cost of fertilizer going up, and you want to stay profitable, you have to look at, well, how can I reduce my fertilizer usage? And if you have regulators coming after you for the water that you're pumping, you have to ask yourself, well, how can I limit or reduce my water usage? And the Cheminoxy Plant Booster is a tremendous way to do that, because we've reduced water usage by 20%, 40%, and in some cases 60%. Because we're really improving the soil's ability to retain water. And that, of course, is going to give you the edge up, where everybody else is scratching their head going, am I not even going to plant a crop this year? Or am I going to let my trees go, and not get a crop this year and hopefully have crop insurance or something else? Or are you going to be one of the guys that says, you know what, this is a problem and I need to face it. I need to do something about this, because the Kimanasi plant booster can definitely help you. And we want to work with every farmer we can to help you reduce your water usage so that you stay within those regulations. Even in counties where they're not even regulating yet, you got to understand that this stuff is coming. Unless the drought just miraculously ends, which of course we all hope the drought condition does subside, you get a lot more rain, a lot more snowpack, and then this becomes less of a problem. That would be great for everybody. But if that situation doesn't happen, and this drought situation continues, you need to do everything you can to make your trees and your crops as efficient in terms of water usage as possible. And the Kimanasi plant booster is a tremendous way to achieve that goal. And if you have more questions on the specifics of how we can help you and your farm, we have our phone number here. Oops, down over here, sorry. Right there, you have our phone number, and down here as well, actually right there. So you can call us at any time. We're happy to do a one-on-one consultation for you and your farm and show you, not just about water usage, but how we're improving crop yields, how we're reducing chemical usage, and how we're improving the overall environmental impact. Because I think if we all had the opportunity, we would be stewards of the land and doing what's right for the ecology of our farm and the earth around us. As long as we can do that in a profitable way that really benefits the farmers, I think everybody wins. So give us a call or send us an email at service@harvestharmonics.com. We would love to work with you. Let me see if there's any comments here, just to make sure there's no questions here. A couple of greetings from Sierra Leone. Thank you so much, Mohammed. My country have many people of agriculture who want to become a young farmer. Great. We would love to help you become a young farmer. Once you get up and running, I mean, I can't build the farm for you, but once you get up and running, our system will definitely help make your farm as efficient and productive as it possibly can be. We'd love to work with all the farmers that are already in Sierra Leone and everywhere else as well. In fact, we just have a guy in Kenya getting started. I believe he should be starting this week. We're just, he already approved the payment and everything's going through. As soon as the wire transfer, we'll have Kenya on board. And that's another country we really wanted to get involved with, because Kenya and Africa, Nigeria, that's kind of the breadbasket of Africa. And there's a lot of countries who have a tremendous economic opportunity to increase their exports to countries like China and other countries that really need food. And if we can help you with that export, we definitely can help you and your country make a lot more money over there too. So I don't see any other questions, guys. But guys, if you want to know more information, and just to give you some numbers here, we've got some crops getting $17,000 more an acre, others getting $12,000 more an acre on blueberries, $20,000 more an acre on cherries. I mean, the list just goes on and on. Grapes, cherries, blueberries, strawberries. I mean, farmers are getting a lot more money with this, because when you can really handle the photosynthesis efficiency of a plant, it improves so many different areas. It improves things like how much fruit and vegetables that plant is producing, and how efficiently it's able to use water, especially in hot or dry conditions like you're seeing in California. And when you can do that, you can solve a lot of problems. When you're continually chasing the problems, it's very difficult to solve everything. And the Kimanasi plant booster handles the core cause of a lot of these issues. So we would love to work with you. If you want to give more information, again, you can call us at 727-324-6750. You can email us at service@harvestharmonics.com. We'd love to work with you guys and help you become more efficient in your operation, because let's face it, if you're not efficient and everybody else around you is, then you're going to be left behind. And if you don't take proactive measures now, before those regulations really get kicked in, and before technologies like satellite evaluation technologies of water usage really become sophisticated enough to really start clamping down, then you could be a farmer that's out of business. I hate to say it, because I love farmers and I want to see all of you succeed. But if you're not rolling with the times and moving forward with the times, you could be left behind. And I don't want to see that for anybody. I want to see you guys live a long, happy, productive life and continue providing the fruits and vegetables that we all love and enjoy. So give us a call and let us help you. Let's work together and make your farm part of the future of farming today, and make it the best and most efficient operation it can possibly be. That's all we got today, guys. Super happy that you guys were able to join me today. If you have any questions, please give us a call or send some comments in here on this, and we would love to work with you to help you become better farming. And in that regard, I'm going to go talk to some more farmers. So I will see you guys later, and thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you again tomorrow.